Welcome to my presentation on generative structural design for embodied carbon estimation. This research was done in collaboration with Mueller and Christoph Reinhart from the Digital Structures Group and the Sustainable Design Lab at the Department of Architecture and Urban Planning at MIT. In the coming decades, over 226 billion square meters of buildings are projected to be built. With construction and energy use of buildings accounting for almost 40% of current carbon emissions, there is an immediate need for new strategies for net zero carbon construction. This stresses the importance of assessing embodied carbon in the existing building stock to better inform the development decisions on both the building and urban scales. In addition to estimating carbon impacts of early stage design decisions for new construction. With the current pace of building renovation rates of around 1% and the long-term goals of carbon neutrality in the building sector by 2050, we project the building industry to create over 674 gigatons of CO2 emissions in the next 30 years. This is more than some estimates of the entire global carbon budget of all industries for retaining the UN temperature goals of 1.5 degrees Celsius. We can show how a radical increase in renovations to around 5% and operational carbon neutrality by 2030 could reduce the building-related emissions to only 588 gigatons. A further inclusion of embodied energy reduction by 2030 shows the potential savings of more than 100 additional gigatons. To achieve these goals, it is important to measure the embodied carbon of built and unbuilt structures. There is a plethora of tools and databases available for tracking embodied carbon. Commercial software such as Tally and One-Click LCA plug into existing CAD workflows, while others feature databases with sample projects and materials. All the tools, however, require a full accounting of construction materials, thus requiring a highly detailed BIM model or survey of the analyzed structures. Therefore, they are only accurate at the end of the design process and cannot be used in early stage or for predictions. Reference databases with hundreds of projects reveal the complexity and challenges of estimating embodied carbon based on building types. They show the huge difference in embodied carbon of buildings caused by construction materials, building geometry, typology, height, and location. Current simplified carbon estimation methods use areas of facade, roof, and floor as a multiplier to calculate the embodied carbon of a structure. However, when we look at the commercial building template, for instance, from the EC3 database, it reveals that the structural concrete and steel makes up almost most of the embodied carbon. Unlike facades or roof structures, those are hard to quantify in square meter values. We studied the nonlinear relationships between spans and structural material quantities in a hierarchical beam system with steel, concrete, and timber. Embodied carbon values are computed by multiplying the structural material quantities by embodied carbon coefficients. They reveal a big difference in material quantities across different materials based on distribution, spacing, and span of beams. This led us to the development of a new workflow for embodied carbon estimation. Based on the volume and number of floors of a building, we create the possible scenarios for the internal structure. The generated structure is analyzed and populated and dimensioned with structural members. This results in a structural model that reflects a simplified version of a full 3D model. For the scope of this study, we specifically focused on steel-framed buildings, a widely used material in commercial buildings of today. To verify the workflow, we analyzed and recreated 4 existing buildings with their steel structure. The buildings feature different typologies of office building, school warehouses, and a university building. For the geometric generation of a beam layout, we proposed 2 generative methods, the Voronoi method and the cutout method. As visualized in both methods produce quasi-optimal solutions that in average predict the weight of the structure. The Voronoi method subdivides a floor in equal areas, and the number of divisions, which defines the base size, and the beam spacing can be input parametrically. The cutout methods creates a rectangular grid with variable base size in X and Y direction, as well as a differentiated column cadence. We create sample beam layouts with comparable spans with the Voronoi and cutout method. Sampling hundreds of different versions of both Voronoi and cutout method beam layouts, we can see that even though the sampling parameters change, the base size can be used for very accurate structural material quantification without knowing the actual structural layout of the building. So here we see, compared to a reference structure, both Voronoi and cutout samples with similar base sizes. We compare the 4 different reference buildings from our database with the reference structure featuring the same beam layout but automated sizing, Voronoi and cutout method. For the reference structure, the same sizing algorithm was used as for the generative methods, while retaining the original geometry. The results and analysis of the structural framing plans show a large variety of structural material quantity over the 4 sample buildings, almost doubling the embodied structural material quantities and thus embodied carbon, based on different spans and loads. The analysis of our parameter space shows that a correct estimation of the base size of the real structure allows for an estimation of the building structural material quantity using our 2 methods. In this paper, we present a first proof of concept for a novel generative design workflow for embodied carbon analysis. Future work utilizing larger calibrated building datasets will be required to make embodied carbon predictions with high accuracy. Further assessing the performance and refining our geometric methods and integration with secondary geometric details for building envelopes, floors, and cores will allow for a comprehensive study of embodied carbon. Additional material systems widely used in construction, such as concrete, brick, and timber systems, would have to be investigated to make building predictions or to make predictions about larger urban building stock.